Yeah, I mean, going back to
So
your
it's just
previous
look
point.
at this that I did at the
Oh,
this I made at the Woodworkers Guild the other day. I'm going to
nice.
call this the Scorpion when I
Mm,
finish with it. Let me. You know what? I've got the box right next to me, so I can show you what it'll look like when it's finished.
yeah.
You go on with what you were saying, though. I'm just providing some
Okay.
visual distraction, not distraction, visual stimulation for the audience.
Well, I was going to go back to the point you made about the American Revolution, and I think there's still, despite many reactionaries, I'm sure they would say otherwise, I think there's still something salvageable about the kind of original American vision. You know, that idea
Yeah.
of farmers, like a nation of farmers who own so many acres and um, live a life kind of, you know, a good Christian life. That's still a
Yeah.
good vision for society, even
Yeah,
if it's under
just
a
a bunch
democratic
of
system.
lonely farmers who, yeah, just what's it? A nation of humble farmers who won't be told.
Mm. Whether it's under a democratic system or not, I don't really care. But that vision in
Yeah,
itself is fine.
yeah. The thing is, though, is I feel like, at least in America, I don't know. It's like I feel like there is something at least somewhat unnegotiable about like I don't know. Well, I feel like in the United States, at least, that sort of thing. Like, I feel like you can't bring in. Just feel like you can't make a new monarchy.
Yeah,
Like that's something that needs to be cultivated over generations. You know, like America being a revolutionary ideological state and not a sentimental state like England. Uh, no, like if America was to have anything like a monarch, I feel like it would basically have to be some kind of libertarian military dictator or something, if that makes sense.
yeah, and it also couldn't be hereditary. It would have to be based on American values or something, or ideas, and whoever inherited that would be the king.
Yeah, well, what's it? It would just have to be like there's some kind of an apprentice or somebody who studies underneath
Mm.
the dictator for their entire life, and when the dictator dies or retires, that person inherits the position, and it could be his son.
Yeah,
There also could just be some particularly bright child that the dictator came across
yeah.
at some point, you know?
I mean, and then that would defeat the object of what a monarchy is, being hereditary, being a family at the head of the nation. I would say that would be,
Yeah.
you know, defeat the object of what a monarchy is meant to be.
Well, maybe, but I would say that the object of monarchy is. Well, I suppose it depends on the time and the place. I would say that, you know, the object of monarchy might be simply stability, you know, thus the point of having one leader
Mm.
for his entire life. But of course, that same exact thing would apply to any dictator. Um, the other the other object, you know, may simply be private property, you know, during the feudal age, for instance, during the feudal eras. You know, the land was basically the private property of the king, which was, you know, rented out to the lords, who sort of sublet it to the knights, and the knights in turn sublet it to squires, who sublet it to the common people.
Mm.
You know, so I feel like that could be one, you know, sort of purpose of a monarchy. You know, the king is not like a member of a particular family. It's just the sort of the majority shareholder in a nation which is run like a private company.
Mm. I suppose, yeah, it's that could work, but I do sometimes think on this topic. I guess yeah, on this topic that our nations that are built upon
We've gone
ideas.
very far off
Yeah,
track, but this is a somewhat entertaining. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, this is just like episode 3. Maybe we've got to now.
yeah, I think so. States and kind of civilizations that, like America, like the USSR or those sorts of things, who base themselves on ideas and sort of concepts and ideologies. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if those are always successful. I mean,
Well, I'd say that they almost never are. I would say that the United States is a incredibly notable exception in being the only what's it? Quite possibly the only revolutionary state which was better afterward than it was before.
yeah,
Um, no, the only country on Earth with more guns than people. Uh, no, the only country on Earth with it decreases every day, but we are still the only country on Earth with anything resembling free speech. Um, no, the only country on Earth with, so many things. And I feel
mm,
like one of those innumerable things that makes the United States unique is the fact that we are the only country on Earth with that is a functional ideological state.
yeah,
I would say that every other ideological state on Earth is basically been uh, either a sort of quick dynamic failure, like a Black Hammer thing,
mm,
the like the communist communes tend to be,
yeah. Well, and the French
or
revolutionary
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
groups during the
ideological nations are usually spectacular failures, or else they're long, grinding, sort of soul-crushing things.
like the USSR.
Yes, like the USSR, or even China, for instance,
Mm,
the modern Chinese communist state, which is really, from a techno point of view, it's more like fascism. But I suppose it is splitting hairs at a certain point when one tries to distinguish fascism and socialism. Uh,
yeah, and that's the question, isn't it? Why is that America? Why is America the exception? Because is that something to do with its religious values? Is that something to do
well,
with
of
its
course, as an LDS person, I would just say that we whole nation and its history has been blessed, ordained, and overseen by God in a way that no other nation since ancient Israel has been. Literally, it just the promised land. But hmm,
But
hmm,
that's one religious interpretation. I mean, there is the whole argument about Protestant sort of values or something, that kind of
I mean, yeah, but the Protestant values of the United States have served somewhat to destroy it, I would say.
well, the
Because like New
success
England,
to
like
it.
what? That's true. That's true. But like what's it like? What are the most atheist parts of the United
Yeah,
States? It's New England,
yeah.
basically.
I don't think it's
California is quite atheist as well, but not quite as much. You get a lot of soft hippy dippy spiritualism out west on the West Coast. They're not Christians, but they're not godless.
yeah.
Whereas, in on the East Coast, you get very explicit atheism. Uh,
Mm. I don't think
you're
it's a.
quiet all of a sudden.
Can you still hear me?
Can still hear you. You're just a
Yeah.
bit quiet.
Oh, sorry. I don't think you should draw. It's difficult to draw too many sort of a straight line between, say, the Puritans of the 17th century and the sort of modern progressives. It's
I don't think it's a straight line, but I don't think it's a terrible zigzag either. No, there is a well, you know what? It's a bit like saying that the left wing are the real racists because they have their roots in the progressive movements of old, which were, kind of racist. It's true. It's just not terribly obvious to ordinary people, and you ought to out of courtesy, and you kind of have to by necessity. Um, accommodate for the ordinary person and their inability to understand.
Mm. And I also think you shouldn't, just because of these, just because of what they've become. You know, if they're sure, if there are, if there is like a line you can draw between Puritans and progressives, it doesn't mean the Puritan ideas in themselves and some of them that they suggested are bad. You know, you can't throw all of them away.
Yes, you can't throw the baby out with the
Yeah,
bathwater. I suppose that is true.
some things get twisted and sort of molded into things that they were not meant to be, as we have seen with environmentalism.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that is a good point. Yeah. I suppose, yeah, so I guess I wouldn't say that the Puritanism was like completely wrong by any means. But I would say rather that there is some corrupt essence to it,
Yeah,
which ought to have been. You know what? I think maybe an excess of intellectualism is probably what happened, because the Puritans were very rationalistic. The Protestant countries, what's it like? Although evolution is true, I do think it is a little bit sinister that the Protestant countries sort of jumped onto it so much more quickly than the Catholic countries.
yeah,
The That's it. Viewing science not as a tool, not as a means, but as an ends in and of itself, I would say, is something rather harmful, uh, which came
bless
out
you.
of Puritanism. Oh, thank you. Uh, and I would say, yeah, I feel like there's a certain kind of intellectualist, like, worship of the intellect, which sort of came out of Puritanism, that is probably responsible for much of the trouble in the modern era.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that. I mean, whether there are, I mean, there's, as we both know, we are in a continual decline as a civilization. So all
Dead.
parts have been affected by the
Dude,
decline.
my computer cut out, so I didn't hear what you said for the past like 2 minutes.
I was going to say we are, as we both know, we are in a continual decline, in the
Yeah.
well, not just in the West, but in the world as a whole. So
Yeah, I feel like body has got a what's it? Because I feel like it is cyclical. I feel like a
mm,
decline can only go on for so long
yeah,
until you have a revitalization.
hmm
Go on as you were saying.
yeah. Well, where that will come from, that revitalization, where that kind of rebirth will come from, we don't know. But it
I hope
probably
it's Africa. It would be kind of. I just feel like it would be dramatically appropriate if it was
it would be
Africa.
ironic, wouldn't it?
Like, yeah, looking at the world through like from the perspective of God and thinking about God as like as an author,
Mm.
looking at the world as if I was God and as if I was an author, looking at like the narrative arc of history, it would just be like narratively satisfying if in the next century Africa is like the center of all civilization and
Yeah,
makes all the great accomplishments of the next 100 years. I
becomes
don't know that that's really going to happen. It might be like Latin America or something, but
yeah.
it would be appropriate
Mm.
if it was Africa.
They just need to be kind of get themselves out of the holes of in sort of intensive government corruption and all those sorts of problems they've got themselves into.
Well, yes, and that's what people like Paul Kagame are for.
Yeah.
But benevolent dictators,
Mm.
essentially. Benevolent and sort of, well, yeah, because I feel like well that and also Christianity, because you know what one of the big things was that put an end to the Rwandan genocide.
I'm guessing Christianity.
Yes, because Paul Kagame was just like, hey, wait a minute, we're all Christians. What are we doing?
Mm. Genocide is bad. Massacres are bad.
Yeah. So I give me a minute so I can blow my nose and then repeat what you said because I blew my nose right when you said it, so I didn't hear it clearly.
It was not. It was nothing important. I just said genocide is bad and massacres are bad from a
Oh
Christian
yeah, yeah, yeah.
worldview.
Yeah, yeah. Paul Kagame was just like, wait a moment, my people. Hold on.
Mm.
It's not very Christian of us now, is it?
That's like the chart that we're grafting where the low IQ person says massacres bad, genocide bad, and then you've got the midwit who says actually, and then you've got the high IQ which say yes it's bad.
Yeah, yeah. What I would say, you know what, is actually, it just occurred to me is that's actually something as speaking of like IQ in Africa. It is somewhat infamous that the IQ in Africa is rather terribly low, even in the historically palorous nations like Morocco and things and Egypt. However, it did just occur to me, part of the reason for that is basically just that like you are able to get ridiculously high IQ genius type people out of Africa occasionally.
Yeah.
That's how you get like all these Nigerian millionaires that move to United
Mm.
States and stuff. Um, and basically the reason for that is because Africa is the most genetically diverse place on Earth, like there's nearly like if you define a race as being any group of people that are like as distinct from one another as white people are from, let's say, East Asians, there's about 1,000 different races by that standard in Africa.
Mm. How would that
Oh, there's
result
like
in
yeah.
how would that result in them having
Well, so
a lower IQ then?
it's not that it results in them having a lower IQ. It's just that it results in like rampant competition
Yeah.
and just incredible. It's sort of like a random. It's almost like a human. What's a human DNA random numbers generator.
Mm.
And obviously, when you have a random number generator, you're going to get certain numbers most often. It's easy for random forces to produce people that aren't particularly intelligent. However, you can get the occasional genius, and I feel like what Africa needs, I feel like Africa could really succeed if, I suppose what they really need then is just just a free market and private property, because you just need to make it so that the small number of incredible geniuses are able to succeed and get to a point where they can sort of provide for everyone else.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying is that there actually is, looking at it from a purely scientific point of view, there is actually like a small chance that Africa might do something incredible in the next 100 years. But yeah, in order to do that, they kind of, literally need to get past the literal tribalism and
Mm.
genocide and mm,
Oh, and get
yeah.
themselves
I
into
feel
the
like
pockets of foreign powers as well, with
yeah. Oh yeah, that too. Like France is doing all sorts of horrible things in
yeah.
West Africa,
Mhm.
and China's doing all sorts of horrible things in East Africa, and well, India probably would if they weren't so busy doing horrible things themselves, because of course India still has that dynamic where, outside the big cities, the government doesn't exist.
Yeah.
India has its own problems, with like, more than 1 billion people. Um, I feel like India probably would be exploiting Africa right now if they could.
Yeah.
I feel like that's possibly the almost a hallmark of like an expanding civilization is just for some reason they always go to Africa.
Yeah.
Suppose
Although
it's not terribly mysterious. It's high resources and things.
well, they're saying that the global American empire hasn't had much success in importing its ideology into Africa.
No, but they don't really need to, and they don't really care to, because it's just a place for resources. No one actually cares what the people there think. They just care that the people there work in the diamond mines
Hmm.
and don't die any more quickly than they reproduce. So that way you don't run out of workers for the diamond mines.
Mm.
It's terribly sad dynamic in
Very
Africa.
inhuman view.
Yes. Yes, it's quite horrible. And I must confess, there is a part of me that does, not irregularly, fantasize about essentially becoming a warlord and just getting with like a mercenary company or something, and just conquering all of Africa, just to sort of, just to make like a United States of Africa, just like a pure ideological state,
Mm.
like after the image of the United States, except very explicitly imperial and dictatorial.
Mm. I will have to go in a couple of minutes. I'll warn you.
Oh yeah. So any last things that you want to talk about before you have to leave? It was lovely conversation.
It
I
was.
just wish that we stayed ever so slightly more on topic.
That's fine. I mean, we've got. I think that's about 3, 4 episodes that we managed to get. Do you think?
Oh yeah, and we can always talk about the Yearnstang stuff later because that's like a
Yeah.
long-term
Oh
project
yeah,
that
that was the
we want to
original
make like a.
topic, wasn't it?
We wanted to make like a big frat thing, but
Yeah, I was
yeah, we
thinking
can we go ahead.
for 100 for the 100 subscriber special or something. We should. I was thinking we should have done something like games or I don't know, some sort of weird.
We should like Jackbox or something.
Yeah, like that.
Have you
Um,
heard of Jackbox? Do they have that in the UK?
um, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, rings a
It's
bell.
like a party game thing that you do online, and you need like a computer for it, and everybody has their phones, and you can,
Yeah, I've got that.
oh, and it's like,
We've got that in the UK. Yeah.
yeah. Oh no, that's something. You know what? That's something that we can do for like the monthly meetings or whatever. Once we get this Yearnstang thing actually
Mm.
set up,
Mhm.
we can have like the weekly meetings that are a bit more serious, where we
Yeah.
go pick up litter or something and
Yeah.
stop for soda pop afterward.
Mhm.
Then we can have the fun meetings once a month where we play Jackbox and order pizza.
That sounds fun. Yeah, and before one
Yes.
last thing as well.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would like to, as we were discussing the sort of connection between Puritanism and progressivism, it would be very interesting to go through some of the religious movements which came out of that period. And
Yes.
that,
Oh, and don't forget the ever suspicious Quakers.
mm, and I was thinking it could make for an interesting, I don't know, discussion about that, just to have a look at that period and see some of the very subversive types of groups which came from there.
Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of the colleges that the Quakers set up, became some of the earliest progressive colleges in America. So,
Well, there was one
also the Quakers invented the modern industrial prison.
today. Mm.
Well, because they invented the penitentiary. The
Ah,
idea was, oh no, you can't beat people for committing crimes. That's inhumane. You ought to lock them in a small room and
yeah.
make them repent.
Mm. And there
Oh,
was.
because the Quakers were all about psychological punishment rather than physical.
Mm. And in some ways, that's worse.
I would say, it's like, what do you think is more moral? What's it? Putting a crackhead in jail for 5 years, or giving them, or like beating them with a stick 10 times and putting them in a rehab program or something. Because I suspect that if they had crack addicts in the Middle Ages, that's probably what they would have done.
Mm. Yeah, but they would have gone with the
I was like,
former.
oh, yeah,
They're locking them in the prison for 5 years.
yeah, it's a terrible thing in the modern era.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I
You know,
definitely.
it's like what's more humane, you know? If a child
Mm,
steals some gum from the store, is it more, well, no one would ever put a child like that in jail, you know, but like what do you think is a better way of teaching him the lesson, you know?
yeah.
That's such a small thing. You basically like legally in most jurisdictions, you just have to let a person get away with that because it's like, oh, it's less than $100, doesn't really count as theft.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like no, I feel like the owner of the store is fully within his rights to give that child a spanking or something, you know.
Mm, yeah, I would agree.
Eh.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. Before, yeah, I definitely think it would be
yeah.
interesting to see that period. To look at that period with you because there was also the group called the
Oh yeah.
Ranters, and this group, very subversive. They believed that because God created everything, that everything therefore was permissible. So there was no sin.
Oh yeah, well I've heard about that. That was in the Middle Ages, wasn't it? There was a group like that. Like they I think it was like they were like in Czechia or something.
Yeah,
During the Hussar Rebellion, there was like a
there.
subgroup of the Hussars that
Yeah, there's
were
all sorts of groups like that. Yeah, there was that. The one I was referencing was the one from the English Civil War, but I'm sure they existed as well.
yeah, so no, that would be an awesome topic for our next thing, perhaps a live stream or something. Lovely speaking to you, but I suspect you're rather busy, as you were saying. So
Well, it's only for dinner. That's all.
dinner, yeah. So I see you then. Maybe we can talk a bit more afterward if my family's not gone to visit Mathleman's house.
Yeah. Well, see you later, and then if I don't catch you later. Enjoy your visit.
Yeah. Same to you, man. Have a lovely dinner with your family. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye. See you later. Subscribe as well, by the way.